Hello students, here I am back again with a science chapter 2 components of food part 2. In the previous video, that is part 1, what we learned and what we know is nutrients. What are nutrients? Substances present in food needed for proper growth, development and functioning of the body are the nutrients. Then we know about the main components of food. There are 5 main components of food. Which are they? Carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins and minerals. Beside these nutrients, roughage and water also plays an important role in our body. We learned briefly about carbohydrates, where we learned about its sources, all plant sources, right? The types. Which are the types? Simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. Under that, what we have learned is sugar and starch, where sugar is the simple carbohydrate and starch is the complex carbohydrates. We have seen the difference also, and of course the function. So we know the function of the carbohydrates. What is it? They are the energy giving food. Okay, they provide us instant energy. And by now we also know the test carried out to identify the presence of two types of carbohydrates, that is sugar and starch, right? Let's move further to the second main component of food, that is the fats. Let's see the sources of fats first. We get fats from both plant and animal source. The sources of fats that we get from plants are the different types of oils which are extracted from the plant parts. For example, coconut oil, groundnut oil, mustard oil, sunflower oil, olive oil, sesame oil, etc. Also nuts and seeds like walnut, almonds are the sources of fats. In animal sources, we get fats from eggs, fatty meat, then fish, cheese, butter and many other milk products. So we get fats from both plants and animal sources. In carbohydrates, what we saw was we get carbohydrates only from the plant source. There we have not seen any animal source, right? Children, we know the types of carbohydrates. We do have types of fats. Okay, now this you won't find in your textbook. This is an additional point. Okay, and you don't need to go deep into this. Just for your information, you should know that there are also two types of fats. So I'm telling you this. Okay, so the two types of fats are saturated fats and unsaturated fats. Okay, now these have been classified on the basis of the bond between carbon and carbon atom. Okay, now if you see the first structure, I don't go deep into the structure also. Okay, C refers to your carbon atom, H refers to your hydrogen atom. Okay, and if you see the line between them, that refers to a bond. So if you see the structure of saturated fat, we have a long hydrocarbon chain where you have single bond between every carbon atom, right? If you see the second structure, unsaturated fats, okay, again we have long chain of hydrocarbon where at one place you can see two lines, that is the double bond between the carbon atom. So this bond, single, double, classify them into saturated fats and unsaturated fats. If you have a long hydrocarbon chain where there is a single bond between carbon-carbon atom, then it is a saturated fat. if you have long hydrocarbon chain where you have double bond between carbon-carbon atom, then it is a unsaturated fats. Okay, definitely we'll be studying it in detail when you go to the higher standard. Right now, just remember that there are two types of fats: saturated fats and unsaturated fats, based on the bonding between the carbon atom, right? Let's see the functions of fats. Fats also gives us energy. Okay, so fats are also called as energy giving food. Both carbohydrates and fats are called as energy giving food, right? But fats give more energy as compared to carbohydrates. Okay, the second function is they act as shock absorbers and protect the organ in case of a fall or an injury. Okay, the presence of thick layer of fats over the bones and muscles of the body acts effectively as shock absorber in case of any accident. The fats also protect the inner organs, just like the airbags. We know that our car contains airbags. Whenever there is an severe accident or something, it opens up just to protect the person inside. Same way, this fat which is present under our skin or over the bones and muscles, they protect us from the sudden shocks. Okay, the third function is they keep our body warm. They regulate the temperature of the maintain the temperature of the body. Children, as I said, fats are energy giving food. That does not mean you need to have lot of fats in your diet, because again what happens is this excessive intake of fats rich food in our diet results into a condition called obesity. Okay, and then it leads to abnormal weight gain, and also this condition leads to various other diseases like high blood pressure, diabetes, heart diseases, etc. So you need to have fats in a proper quantity. Okay, children, we know the sources, the types and functions of fats. Okay, now let's see how the presence of fats are being detected in the food items. What you have to do is you have to wrap the food item in a piece of paper, maybe white paper, tissue paper, anything will do, and you need to crush it. Okay, right now also you can do, if you have groundnuts, just wrap the groundnuts in the piece of paper and crush them. After crushing, you need to straighten the paper. Once you do that, you will find an oily patch. Okay, so this oily patch is translucent, and that means the light can partially pass through it. Now this detects the presence of fat. Can you see in the picture, cooking oil is being used. Okay, and at one side water is being used. After drying, water won't leave any mark there, but cooking oil will form a oily patch where you can just conclude that yes, it contains fat. This is a very simple test to detect the presence of fat in the food item. Let's move to the third nutrient which is necessary for our body is the proteins. The proteins are the building blocks of all the tissues of our body. That is why foods rich in proteins are called as body building foods. Cells in our muscles, organs, blood, and even nails and hair are made up of proteins. Let's see the sources of proteins. Whole cereals such as wheat, groundnuts, beans, pulses, fish, egg, meat, milk, cheese, all other milk products all contains high proteins. Okay, now if you see here, again both plant and animal sources contains protein. Further, protein requirement differs according to the age and condition of the body. Growing children, pregnant women, and sick people need more proteins in their diet than normal adults. This is because their body needs to produce new cells and tissues for growth and development. Let's see the functions of proteins. As I told you, proteins are the bodybuilding food. They are overall required for the growth, development and repair of the body. Okay, so the first function here is proteins are essential to build new cells and tissues, that is growth and development of the body. They are needed for the repair of the body. Okay, whatever damaged, worn out tissues are there, they have been repaired due to their presence. Further, let's see the test for proteins, how the presence of protein is being detected in the food item. For this, the material required is the food sample, which is rich in proteins. You may take egg white or milk. Then what you need here is copper sulfate solution, which is blue in color. You will need sodium hydroxide solution, well known as caustic soda, which is transparent in color, and a test tube. Okay, let's see the procedure. Mix the food sample with few drops of water. Okay, we are always going to add water first. If it is solid, of course we are going to crush it, and then we are going to mix it with water, and we'll have a paste. Then that paste has to be taken in the test tube. After that, you need to add few drops of copper sulfate solution, which is blue in color, right? Later on, you need to add few drops of sodium hydroxide solution, which is transparent in color. Okay, shake well, and you need to wait for 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, and what you have to observe is the color change. If the content of the test tube turns purple or violet, it confirms the presence of proteins. If it remains blue, that time you can say that the proteins are absent. But if you get purple or violet color, then that confirms the presence of proteins. So this is a simple test to again detect the presence of protein in the food step. Okay students, let's stop today. Let's recap what we have learned today. Okay, we have learned about two major components of food, fats and proteins, where in fats we have seen the sources, types and functions of fats. Also we have seen the test to detect the presence of fats in the food sample. In proteins also we have seen the sources, functions and the test to detect the proteins in the food sample. Okay, overall in part 1 and 2 we have finished with 3 major components of food, that is carbohydrates, fats, proteins. In the next video we'll be talking about the other main components, that is minerals, vitamins, roughage and water.